Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got two replays in the Soviet Tier 8 Tech Tree Heavy Tank, the IS-2-II, or the IS-2-II. If you do like the video, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe down below, as it really does help out the channel. And yes, the IS-2-II. It is a vehicle that when I ground it out, and it was stock, it was horrible. This tank stock is a horrible experience. But when you get it fully upgraded and you get this 100mm gun, or the dual 100mm gun that you get on this vehicle, it's actually not too bad. In terms of the way that the armour is, it's very so-so. It works decently enough when you're hull down using the 7 degrees of gun depression, but higher pen rounds can go through the turret front if you're not careful. The hull armour can bounce you a decent amount off the upper plate, but again, as soon as premium rounds become available to shoot at you, they tend to go through the upper plate, and the lower plate isn't very good at all, but that's most tanks, really. The gun depression, like I said, with 7 degrees is decently flexible. It's not incredible, but it's not bad. It's enough that you can play ridge lines, and the general damage output of this dual 100mm gun is pretty nice, generally. You've got the burst that you can do with the double tap, which will do 600 damage if you pen both, because naturally it fires 2 separate projectiles, so you have to hit both to be able to do that 600 damage, but it hits for 600 damage, and that's quite nice. The 300 alpha is not too bad as well. The penetration is not too bad. The general accuracy of this gun is not too bad either. It's just generally a fairly average tier 8 heavy tank, which is what you'd probably call balanced, if we're honest. And you can do well in it, but you can also struggle in it depending on the situations you do get stuck in. So the IS-2-II, it's got a 35.7 km/h top speed, a 12.6 km/h reverse speed, 787.5 horsepower engine, which is 14.71 horsepower per ton ratio. So generally you do get up to your top speed just about. It's a little bit sluggish sometimes, but generally you do get there. And with a 1.97 on soft, that's pretty decent. 1.32 on medium is poor though. That is not good medium terrain resistance. And a 0.94 on firm is not too bad. So the medium randomly is really bad, but the other two aren't that bad at all. You've got a 7.45% internal fire chance with the build that I run, which means actually I haven't really been set on fire very often since the crew and equipment changes, which is quite nice in the IS-2-II. And I played it a decent amount as well because I've just been enjoying playing it. You've got a 32.59 degree a second hull rotation speed, which means it does turn fairly quickly on its tracks for a heavy tank, which is quite decent, but your turret traverse is slower than the tracks at 30.86 degrees a second, so do be careful of that your turret does turn slower than the tracks, and can be a bit of a frustration if you're trying to keep your gun locked on target while turning the opposite way. You've got 463 metres of view range, which for a Soviet heavy is actually pretty good at tier 8. And it means you're not completely blind, because quite a few of them are pretty blind. So having 463 is pretty good for the IS-2-II. You've got 7 degrees of gun depression on this vehicle, like I say, is decently flexible. It's not incredible gun depression, it's not terrible gun depression. It's just flexible enough that with the way that this tank is, that you can get the gun down in quite a few situations. But depending on the ridgeline you're on as well, you might have to overexpose yourself to be able to actually get the gun down on target. Not incredible, not bad, it's pretty average. You've got a 0.72 accuracy during rotation with a 1.49 accuracy during movement, which means as a pair, the aim circle doesn't bloom out that horrifically on this tank, which is actually very good for this 100mm dual gun on the IS-2-II. And it means that you don't have to sit and wait for it to aim in for all that long. And you do have a 2.35 second aim time, which is a little bit long, but at the same time, again, you don't really feel it that horrendously because the aim circle doesn't become absolutely huge. I mean, that's generally about as big as it gets for the IS-2-II, which is actually pretty good. A 0.36 accuracy at 100 metres as well as getting onto the derpier end of accuracy, so it's not your most accurate gun in the universe, but to be honest, it generally hits where I want it to, with a slim pixel double barrel at 400 metres right there in front of your face on the M3Y. That's generally the way that this gun performs for me. It's really not that bad, and it actually generally feels pretty good to use, compared to something like the 703-II at distance, because the 703-II is just a bonkers tank. But when it gets to the point of playing distance that this thing can do, the 703-II starts to fall down a little bit because the accuracy is really poor. But generally that thing is a monster in all sorts of engagements compared to this thing, which is, you know, fairly average. So you've got that 8.92 second reload on this 100mm gun, which is 2k DPM. Naturally, you've got 2 guns as well, so your DPM is actually a bit higher than what it is if you just look at the one base gun. You've got 221 penetration on the standard AP, with 256 penetration on the premium APCR. And with 980 meters a second shell velocity and 1250 on the premium APCR, again, if you load the APCR round, you do feel a large difference in the gun handling and the general feel of the gun, just because that velocity makes a lot of difference in how, or the perception of how a gun generally feels. And yeah, the APCR round is very, very good. Struggles, obviously, if you go against some of the heavily armoured tier 10s, but, well, you're a tier 8. You're not always naturally meant to go up against those things. But at least you can pen them in the sides and stuff if you do get that chance. It's not like some vehicles where they've got heat rounds that, even against the super heavily armoured tier 10s, they just go, aha, I have the penetration that this thing has, but oh, wait, heat rounds and spaced armour, lol. You know, at least you don't have that problem. But you got 1250 meters of second shell velocity on that APCR round, and that's pretty nice. The HE round has 50 millimeters of pen, which is just not that useful. You generally don't use that, as you gain only 60 damage on that round, as it's 360 alpha compared to 300, and it's only really useful against the artillery. And like I say, you'll have to spend time then loading both guns with the AP or the APCR or whatever. You know what I mean? It's a bit awkward. So in this game that you're seeing here on Grim Graveyard, we're about to make a mistake, and that is we've pushed to this ridge line, because I thought maybe I could spot the people along the 1-2 line, get shots into the Lycan, and then try and get shots and stay safe on this ridge. But what we actually do is, the one time that I said that this tank doesn't really get set on fire for me, I get set on fire, and I die, because I got caught out with shots in the side by Mr. Lycan. I generally haven't been set on fire that often in this vehicle with running the fire safety training, but of course I had to show the one game that I do get set on fire, because lol! Contradictory. But yeah, generally we made a mistake there. We should have stayed back, where we could have actually got safe easy. We would have been able to keep putting shots out. We still finished the game with a good total with the 5.1k damage and 2k assist. We just shouldn't have pushed to that ridge line, or we should have not focused on the squall. We should have focused on the Lycan. But in all honesty, we were still screwed in that position, because we were easy to shoot by the guys that had gone into the corner. So what do I run in terms of a crew and equipment for the stats that you've just heard for the tank in general? Well, I run Born Leader, Situational Awareness, Track Mechanic, Run and Gun, Snapshot, Clutch Braking, Rapid Aim, Expert Gunner, the Fire Safety Training, Optics, Stabs, Vents, and Turbo. Turbo to get that slightly better top speed, so we get up to the 35, nearly 36 kilometers an hour, as well as having the better engine power. It gives you 0.7 better horsepower per ton ratio, which can be pretty handy for feeling a little bit mobile in terms of getting you to your top speed. Vents to generally make everything about the tank better, like the reload especially. We're just trying to help it out a little bit. The stabs to get the accuracy during rotation and movement down as low as possible, in conjunction with the run and gun and snapshot, so that aim circle doesn't become that large and we don't feel the aim time all that badly. Clutch braking and rapid aim, so that we can make the track traverse and the turret traverse really quite nice for this vehicle, as obviously they're a little bit slower if you don't help that, so it's nice to have that and get that benefit out of it. We run the fire safety training because it is a Soviet heavy tank, and Soviet heavy tanks like to get set on fire all the time, so it's nice to be able to reduce the effect of getting fired and how long we get set on fired for. With optics to be able to get that better view range up to 463 meters, as naturally, again, this vehicle is a bit blind if you do not help it with the view range, so that's what we really want to do. With track mechanic, meaning we are a fairly brawly heavy tank, meaning we can get the tracks back on that little bit faster, and then the situational awareness and Born Leader generally, because we take that on pretty much everything we're going to play. But like I say, there's plenty of ways you can set up the vehicle. You could quite easily drop the vents for a GLD if you feel like the aim time's too much. You could run the armour hardening to reduce the amount of damage coming into the tank by 5%. That's also perfectly valid. You could drop the clutch braking or the rapid aim to be able to get the armour angling in there, to be able to reduce the amount of damage coming in by 5% as well. Plenty of different ways to kit out the vehicle. It's really down to how you want to play the vehicle and how you're going to get the best out of it. So this second replay here on this map, oh, that was a bad shot, wasn't it? That was a boo-boo with where we were actually positioned there on the ridgeline. We're on this map, which is Fractured Lands? Fractured Peaks? Fractured something. It's fractured. There's fractures. There's fractures. You can see them right there. So yeah, here on Fractured, whatever you want to call it, it's basically the Halloween version of Cliff. And we're in a pretty damn bad matchup. There's a lot of tier 10s in this game, and we're going to try and make the most of it and have a good game now that we've taken the middle area here on Fractured Lands. Because, like I say, from this position, same as it is on Cliff, you can get shots across the eastern part of the map, like you've just seen us get into the Charioteer. We can also try and pressure their base area, but it's a bit harder on this version of the map to be able to pressure the base area or try and spot out their artillery, that sort of thing. Generally, because there's some great big wall at D3 that's not there on the normal Cliff, which makes it just that little bit awkward trying to actually poke over and shoot. And in fact, in some cases for tanks, you can't. So their team's won that eastern area quite a lot. They've just won it quite easily, and we've not got many people over there because most of our team is actually down below us. So we're going to go to a position that should make it easier for us to be able to try and defend as they push. This position here is the same as it is on Cliff, and it can be a very nice position to take if you're in a similar situation to what we're in here, and you're in a tank that has decent turret armor and generally decent armor. You can just keep poking over and shooting. As you can side scrape off this rock, you can poke over with gun depression and try and fire over the rock as well. So we're seeing the Chieftain Mark 6. He ends up firing. We've got the double barreling because I want to just try and limit the amount of time I'm actually exposing my tank over the sides of these rocks. And if I can just get a double barrel into people, put nearly 600 damage into them, and then get myself safe again while I reload, that's kind of what I want to be trying to do. So the Chieftain's driving out in the open. We put the double barrel into the side of the Chieftain, making him a possible one-shot for quite a few of our team, or he's now a one-shot if we double barrel him, or if someone else puts another shot into him, which is exactly what happens. He gets hit for 95, he's now a one-shot for us, and we finish off Mr. Chieftain, who was just pushing far, far too aggressively there with us in this kind of position towards our cap area. And again, this is why this position can be quite good as well, because if their team decide to push that aggressively towards your cap, you can defend it from here. The problem is, naturally, this position that we're in here is very, very open to attack from people that are in your cap area. So if you think that this might be a good position to take if you were the other spawn to aggressively push you where you might be able to shoot down into their cap, or into where our cap is currently, yeah, it doesn't go very well. You die pretty quickly. So we're up to 2.7k damage with 641 assistance damage, and we just got to be a bit patient. We don't want to be too aggressive. We know there is stuff exactly where we've pinged over there, because it was trying to shoot at us. So we just need to be very, very careful. If we want to, we can poke over and shoot Mr. Storm Tiger P here, but naturally we bounce off the side of the Storm Tiger P, because why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we? Thanks, RNG. Always a good time. So they're deciding to push over and aggressively into the donut area, into the bowl area. We can poke over and do exactly this. So we put the double barrel into the Super Conqueror, and again, this is why this position is pretty nice to take, because you can do exactly what we've just done there. We poked over, double tapped the Super Conqueror, it finished him off, and again, that's the nice flexibility of having this double barrel system, and why I do love the double barrel system, because we can be that single shot tank where you saw us get the single shot into the Chieftain to finish him off. But there, where we could actually finish off the Super Conqueror with a double shot, that's exactly what we did. We pressed left on the D-pad, the double barrel, or the little arrow, indicated next to both guns, and we were able to fire and do near 600 damage, depending on the RNG roll. So I've now decided, okay, I think this position has outlived its usefulness. They've only got 4 tanks left. The MX-30 that was in that corner, we knew exactly where he was. We can see him, so we go for the double barrel, press left on the D-pad, and get the shots in. Now, why did I do that? I went for that because I felt like the AMX-30 might actually get himself back safe around that corner before I got a chance to fire and fire again and then fire again, right? Which is the strength of these double barrel systems, because you can do a 3 shots very, very quickly, because you get the 1 shot in and then you wait for the downtime, get the 2nd shot in, and by the time that you've got the 2nd shot in and the downtime on the lockout is done, you're pretty much nearly loaded on the 3rd shot, so you can dish out 3 shots quicker than you can if you do a double barrel, then wait and do a 3rd shot. So it's always nicer if you can just keep the single shots rolling. But in the situations like that, where the MX-30 might have actually got himself safe before I got the chance to do that, it can be quite good. And we managed to, you know, knock 620 odd hit points off of that tier 9 French medium tank. So we've loaded up the premium rounds now so that we can go after the Object 780, because the 221 penetration that we got on the standard AP might struggle with the front of a Object 780. The 256 penetration on the standard on the premium APCR, sorry, might still not go through the 780, but it's got more chance than the AP, so that's what we're just trying to eliminate the risk of bouncing off. But in fact, we bounced off the side of a light tank, because light tank tracks are, they're just the best armor money can buy, okay? We bounced off the side of the T100 LT, and that's probably because the shot went quite low and hit where there's actually track but no tank behind it. We're up to 6 kills with the 4.4k damage, nearly 738 assistance. There's the 3 tanks left. We know where the MX-30 is. So in fact, we're going to try and see if we can get some shots into the side of the 780, who was up on top of this ridge. We end up seeing him here. He can see us. Thankfully, he misses. We get a shot through his side there that was just angled not quite good enough. If we can get another shot in, that would be glorious. Aiming for that cupola, but I'm conscious of the Griller 15, because the Griller was progressing along the 8-9 line. So I'm fully expecting that that Griller is going to be somewhere like D8 or C7 in that area. And I'm going to struggle to spot him. I may have 463 meters of view range, but the Griller still has pretty good camo. And that means that, yeah, he's going to, especially if the 780 is spotting me, he's going to get shots at me before I ever see him. And if the Griller hits me, naturally he could high roll. If he high rolls, he kills me. But if he low rolls, he still puts me down to a very, very precarious position with our HP. We can't take a hit from the 780, that sort of thing. So we just took the better part of Valor there to go change position and go the other side. So the Griller 15 gets spotted in the middle. The 780's actually moved off. So what we're going to do with the MX-30 now being dead, we're going to go get rid of the Griller, because then we can go focus on the 780. But in fact, the 261 shuts down the Griller 15, fantastically enough for us. And so now we can go pressure Mr. 780. We're going to see if we can get a shot into the side of his turret or into it. Just a cheeky shot in general. But there's a rock between me and him, and I think, maybe I can use the rock between me and him to my advantage. Leverage the position, use it to side scrape, maybe get him to fire into the rock or bounce off our side, and then we can use the opportunity to try and get those shots into him. So we're trying to side scrape off, but I couldn't actually see him round it. We use the angling with the rock, which means he ends up just fluffing the shot into the rock in front of us. Try and get this second shot in, but he just gets himself safe behind the dead crafty. We end up ricocheting off the top of his turret as we went for the cupola, but again, this is where we're going to be able to use the rock. He's trying to chase us round it. He's got good mobility, but so do I. Get the double barrel in. We're nearly loaded. I can take the hit, get the double barrel in, and of course, one-shot pens, one-shot bouncers. He's now put us down to a one-shot, but we can, again, we've got friends coming. We can use this position to keep ourselves safe, and thankfully with the shot from the heavy tank and the 261 finishing him off, we don't take any more hits from the 780. It's really unfortunate with the double barrel on his side, though. But we finished the game with 6 kills, 5.2k damage, 943 assistance, the ace tank of the top gun, the high caliber, the sniper medal with the 2.5k base XP. Really great game there for the IS-2-II in a tier 10 matchup, which, like I say, it's a fairly average tier 8 tech tree tank. It's not exceptional, but it's also not bad. You can have pretty good fun with it, and it's nice to have that double barrel mechanic as well. The double barrel mechanic is a lot of fun generally. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
A great success!